Hi everybody, it's me, Emelena, and this is Josh, and today I'm going to be talking about coping mechanisms that I use to deal with symptoms of psychosis. Now, I've had a lot of people ask me before, like, how I deal with such severe symptoms, such as all the delusional thinking, hearing and seeing things that aren't there, hallucinating things out of the corner of my eye that are quite scary at times. And one of the coping mechanisms that I use more than anything is grounding, which I'll talk, not walking around barefoot in the grass, but grounding techniques that they often tell you to use when you have PTSD attacks and things like that. And I also have PTSD, and I have rampant anxiety and panic attacks. One of the reasons that I started this channel was to destigmatize schizophrenia and talk about symptoms and just show that I'm a regular person suffering with a severe disorder, but that doesn't make me a monster or make me a bad person. It just makes me a person with an illness. I originally started the channel talking about that, gaming, and things of that nature, but I have noticed that I like making videos about schizophrenia. Well, I specifically have schizoaffective disorder, which is a combination between schizophrenia and mood disorder symptoms. There are two types. There's schizoaffective bipolar and schizoaffective depressive. I have the latter. Although I was diagnosed with schizoaffective bipolar for a few years until they realized this diagnosis just doesn't seem right. In the past, I have used marijuana to cope with my symptoms, which is bad idea. Bad news bears, everybody. Don't do that. Don't smoke weed when you're schizophrenic. I mean, there are some people who can. There's research that shows that some people actually use it to, like, I don't know, deal with their symptoms rather than meds, which I thought I could do for a while, but it turns out it was actually making things a lot worse, right? And I was smoking weed on top of my meds, which is probably not a good idea, but I did it anyway. But that's not a great coping mechanism. And I quit smoking weed recently. I had to actually learn how to remove that habit and start having more healthy habits for coping with my problems. And as I mentioned earlier, grounding, not hippies walking around barefoot grounding, but grounding techniques which keep you in reality and have you think of like the now, are some of the best ones that I've had, right? And another thing that I do when I start having delusional thoughts is I start asking myself, does this line up with reality? Does this make sense? Is it logical to think this way? So one of the things that I do is I try to look around at things in my environment, like the walls of my room are white. There's a poster in front of me that has white and pink on it. It happens to have one of my favorite characters from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Great anime, you should watch it. So yeah, there's a poster in front of me with my favorite character from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. It's white and pink. He looks pretty neutral in the picture, which is what you're trying to do. You're trying to neutralize your thoughts. See, I learned this from somewhere. You don't want to attach feelings to it. So you don't want to say like, oh, the wall is green. Green is my favorite color. Like, even though it's true, you just want to say the wall is green. It exists as such. And I don't remember the exact reason why you don't want to attach feelings to it, but it has helped immensely to just try and neutralize everything. To try and just be like, you know, my name's Melissa, I exist, I'm wearing Rocco's shirt, and I have black glasses on. This is my boyfriend, he's wearing a green shirt. He's sitting on the ottoman. This man sits on an entire empire.
Yep.
And, you know, or look, this is John Wick. I didn't really like his movies that much, but man, he was a pretty sweet character. Also Keanu Reeves for the win, I guess. A lot of people like that guy. And then a big thing that I do, right, is reality checking. Questioning whether or not something makes sense to be true. I think I mentioned this a little bit ago, but now I'm going to talk about it more in depth. Basically, if I start to believe something, like one of my common delusions is that I think people are going to break into my house. I think there's people like surrounding the house, surrounding the perimeter, waiting to break in. Like when Josh goes to work every morning, I'm like, oh, they're getting ready. They're going to break in. I better make sure everything's locked and I better protect myself, right? And so one of the ways that I deal with that specific thought is by saying to myself, is it logical that people are waiting to break in your house? I mean, wouldn't Josh see these people every morning, right? Wouldn't they? Why are they so focused on my house? Again, I'm just a regular person. I'm not famous. I'm not anybody who stands out. I'm a regular person. So what reason would they be wanting to break into my house for? Also, I'm poor. There's nothing here for them. Okay, they can get a couple laptops and maybe a TV and then call it a fucking day. We have nothing for you. So why would people be surrounding my house trying to rob me? Now, that doesn't mean that I'll stop thinking it. It just means that I know logically it can't be true. It's very hard to explain, but you can believe things and not believe things at the same time. It's extremely hard to explain. I don't know how to convey that any better, but if I keep checking, doing a logical check, like, is this real? Is this true? Can this be true? That helps me, like, basically move past the thoughts. Even though they're still there, it helps me move past it and function throughout my day. Another thing that I do is I have a tendency to react to the thoughts that I have or visions that I have, things that I think are happening. So I try to count to 10 before I react. I try to go, okay, 1, 2, so on and so forth until 10, and give myself at least 10 seconds, maybe a little more. I'll space out the numbers a little more to actually think about what's going on. And while I'm doing this, I will do those reality checks I spoke about. Like, I'll be like, 1, is it logical for people to be outside my house? 2, do you really think there's somebody with a screwdriver out there trying to break in? Because, like, whatever you're hearing is probably just, like, regular outside noises. You see, schizophrenia has this tendency to take regular noises like running water or somebody hammering something or even people talking and turn those into hallucinations. Like, if you hear water running, you might hear people talking, right? You can hear somebody outside with a leaf blower, that'll turn into like some monster out there trying to break into your house or something wild like that, right? People talking, immediately I'll start assuming they're talking shit about me because something's wrong with my brain, obviously. But, like, it all comes back to, are you that important? Do people actually know you exist? No, they don't. Like, okay, I'm gonna tell everybody something right now. This may come as a shock to you. Nobody fucking cares about you, right? Like, your friends and your family do, fine. But people walking around the street, they got their own shit to worry about. They're not worried about you. And they're not worried about me. And yet, I have so much anxiety and so many weird thoughts because of this disorder that I can't stop thinking that everybody is focused on me. It's like main character syndrome, but like times a million, right? A big thing. So the biggest problem that I have, I think, is voices telling me crazy shit. Telling me I'm ugly, telling me I'm fat, telling me I'm worthless, telling me that nobody loves me, nobody wants to be around me, telling me I need to die, telling me that, like, my life is just completely a waste and that it's never been worth anything. No, you know, my family, my friends, I should have been the one that died, blah, 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 blah. All kinds of stuff, right? And I can ignore them for so long, but that causes fatigue. Like, that actually causes like mental stress trying to ignore these things. And for many years, I didn't know how to handle this until I saw a TED Talk from a woman, her name's Eleanor Longden, who talked about confronting voices and questioning them on why they say the things they say. And she talked about how these are manifestations of your fears and of your anxieties. And if you just question them, you will find that there's no logic behind these things they say. And you will also find that they're just projections of your fear, like I said. So, for instance, I believe the example she used is when they tell you not to open the door, ask them why. It's because of your anxiety about leaving the house, which is something I have. I'm scared to leave my house, right? And when my voices start telling me I'm worthless and useless and I can't do this, that, and the other thing, I just start questioning them now. I'm like, why are you saying that? Like, what evidence do you have for me being worthless? And then I'll combat it with actual, like, well, I did this today, you know? And every life has worth. You don't know what you're talking about. You're just a fucking voice in my head. You don't know shit, right? I will get combative, bitch. Like, it's annoying, but you gotta do what you gotta do because they will shut up if you do that. Well, I don't know about other people. I can't speak for other people, but I know that they will shut the fuck up if I actually start questioning them and try to get logical responses for things. I'll be like, okay, well, what about this? Well, what about that? Well, and then they just sort of start shutting up. And it's one of the best ways that I've found to deal with them. In fact, I can turn a voice from negative to positive by doing that. And, you know, again, I can't speak for other people. I don't know if that works for other people, but it works for me. Another coping mechanism I have that's less like psychological is just sitting around watching YouTube videos or reading, something like that. If I'm really trying to distract myself, I'll watch educational stuff, like just boring stuff about stuff I don't know about. Sometimes I'll watch drama channels, though I do that a lot less because let me tell you something about drama channels, okay? These motherfuckers spend hours, weeks, months on end researching other people to expose them, right? And don't get me wrong, very often they're exposing shitty people who deserve to be exposed. But what kind of person are you if you spend your whole life digging through Twitter and Tumblr and YouTube and whatever else to find something someone said 5, 6, 7 years ago just to put them on blast and make a 30-minute video about it? That says a lot about you. So that's why I try not to get sucked into that. There's some quote, right? It was like, something like, people talk about people and great people talk about ideas. And that's what commentary channels are to me. They don't talk about ideas, they just talk about people. And an interesting little side note here is that you can do a commentary channel and address ideas that you dislike that came out of someone's mouth without talking about them. You can just talk about it. You can just say, hey, here's some fucking ideas that I saw, and here's why I disagree with them, and here's why I think they're harmful. But instead, I'm gonna put Andrew Tate's face on my fucking thumbnail and talk about him for 45 minutes and give him all the attention his bitch ass wants. Okay, this has nothing to do with the video. Nah. Like, this has nothing to do with the video. And so anyway, so sometimes I'll watch commentary channels, sometimes I really like watching Dark Viper AU videos. He's a GTA speedrunner who also talks about, like, well, he happens to talk a lot about people like Critical and Asmongold who steal content. He talks a lot about reactors, you know, and he's a really good channel. So sometimes if I'm having, like, symptoms, I'll just, like, put on his channel and just watch a bunch of his, like, rambles stuff. Like, he has a channel called Dark Viper Rambles, and he just rambles about whatever on stream. And other times I'll watch, like, Astrum, who's like a science channel, right? And like, I'm not a scientist, I'm not smart at all, so I'll just like watch that channel. Or what's that one guy, Anton Petrol, but I can't pronounce his name, but he's a science guy too. And this is all stuff that goes above my head, right? Like, I don't understand the science, but I'm watching it to distract myself from my symptoms, and it works. By the way, it works, because I will get so caught up on how stupid I am. Like, what is he talking about? I will get so caught up on that I'll forget that I was even having symptoms to begin with. They'll just kind of go away. Wearing headphones also helps. It tricks your brain into making the voices be quiet, muffling them. Listening to music also does that, although that can be a dangerous game because listening to music can also warp lyrics and sounds into hearing things that aren't really there. So, you know, I have to be mindful of that. And one of the things that I do more than anything is being creative in writing. I'm a writer, so I will take my symptoms and directly lay them into my writing. And anybody who's read my work knows this. Like, you can see that I'm referencing my symptoms in my stories. I'm just disguising them in sometimes clever ways, sometimes not so clever ways. Sometimes I just outright say what it is. Like, for instance, in one of my stories, I had a disease called despair. And it ate people from the inside out. Like, I was not being subtle at all with what that was supposed to represent, right? Oh, and another thing I do is diet and exercise. I make sure that I eat lots of veggies and fruits. Mostly, I eat a lot of fruit. I make sure I get some veggies in. And I try to eat a lot of protein. And I try not to overindulge on sweets and cookies and candies and too much sugar, because those things are proven to have a negative effect on your mental health. And also your regular health. Keeping healthy in body is just as important as keeping healthy in mind. So I make sure I exercise at least 2 days a week, sometimes more, not very often because I'm lazy, but sometimes I do more than 2-3 days a week. I make sure that what I'm eating is not terrible for me. And I know that sounds like blah, blah, blah advice, but like, trust me, man, for your mental health, you do need to watch your diet and you do need to exercise. Just keep your body moving as much as you can. And I'm not saying you have to work out 5 days a week and do intense workouts for an hour a day. No, like, just move your body a little bit. Go for walks. Or if you don't want to leave your house, if you're like me, I have a exercise bike that I use. I do push-ups in my house. I do squats in my house. Working out is free. That's another thing. You can do push-ups. You know, I went from not being able to do 5 push-ups a day to being able to do 100 a day. Like, I just forced myself into it. And it sounds like a lot, but it's not. It's not as intense as you think. You just have to do a little bit every day and you will condition yourself. Now I can just do push-ups. Josh has seen me. I can just do them.
It's like getting good at shredding.
Oh, like with guitar?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. If you want a skill, you have to work on it. Well, that's about it for today. Thanks for watching, and please like, subscribe, and leave a comment if you want.